Jamie from Inky&Scrappy, sharing with you today my Craft Roulette Challenge number 187 project. So this is a see-through card with, it actually ends up being a tri-panel card, I guess. That's not what the project was today. So for my project, I'm going to start with a cardstock base, and then I'm going to cut a window in it and make kind of like a sandwich between the top layer, my card base, and then have acetate in there because the project needed to be a cardstock and no cardstock. So that's how I am doing that one to start with. I'm bringing in Lawn Fawn's Holiday Helpers and Christmas Dreams to help me build my scene here. So to start with, I'm starting with Tim Holtz's brick stencil and some Distress Oxide in Lumberjack Plaid. Now, I'm not going to go over the whole thing with my Lumberjack Plaid and brick stencil here because I'm going to cut out that center part, so I really don't need to waste my time and or ink on the middle piece. I did end up missing a little corner, which I do end up going back in later and fixing at the end because although it kind of had color on it, it wasn't enough and it bugged me, so I do go back and fix that later. I am splattering this with some sparkles from Brutus Monroe Aqua Pigments in Violet Frost. I'm still working through my spilled up mess. It's all good. It's getting close to empty though, so I'm gonna have to, refill my container. It kind of worked out really good. Anyways, so I'm gonna tape my card front onto my card base. Line this up as best I can. So I kind of took the negative that pops out of this one and kind of put that on my card and hoped for the best. Because I kind of wanted to, it doesn't catch like a slimline die does because this is a big die. But it did catch fairly close. It just kind of, I think it shaved off a little bit. But it wasn't too bad. It actually stayed fairly good on center for me. So I was pleased with that result. Now I'm going to come in with a transparency sheet here. I'm going to cut it down to, I want to say I do about 5 1/4 by 4, and maybe just 4 and a little under 1/4. I probably should have cut it a little bit taller, but it ends up working because I can cheat it a little bit because I'm going to actually inset that frame on top of it, so it's not a huge deal. As I was not worried with my score tape here showing through or covering any part of that window because I really just needed it to hold my acetate sheet here in place. And I'm going to pop that frame in on top later. Although the top one ended up being a little bit lower than maybe it should have been, it still works in the end. I'm going to go in with some glue to add in my top panel. This will just hold that all on there and keep it set and firm. So I did set that together under a acrylic block, and then I went and die cut some wood grain cardstock. Sorry, it's been a long day. I did die cut some wood grain cardstock in that window frame die again. So I'm going to glue one on the inside, and I do this because I like it to be finished on the inside. I don't like to have my guts hanging out on the inside, I guess, so to speak. I like it to have a clean finished look on the inside just as well as the outside. It's the little things. So I'm going to lay out some of my stamped image or my stamps here to kind of figure out what I'm going to be able to build in my scene. So I wanted to do Santa's helpers, kind of Santa's helpers in his workshop. Since we were going Santa's workbench for my color scheme, I figured it's time to start some Christmas cards. Yes, my husband walked in while I was coloring these, and he's like, "Christmas already?" I said, "Don't worry, I'll be back to Halloween next week." Or later this week. Later today? Actually, it's this coming week. So I pulled off all of my little my 2 little elves, my Christmas tree from Christmas Wishes, and then of course all the little toys from the Santa's Helper stamp set. And I'm going to stamp these out on some Xpress cardstock with some Lawn Fawn Jet Black ink. I think it's my Lawn Fawn Jet Black ink. It could be my Hero Arts. alcohol marker safe ink. I might have misplaced my lawn foam like under a pile of paper. I found it eventually. So I'm also bringing in some pattern paper from close to my heart. This one is a super old one. How do I know it's super old? Because before I quit close to my heart, they were doing it on cardstock that was like 65-ish pound cardstock, and this is definitely printer, like high-end printer paper quality. Text stock, or text paper. It's not cardstock at all. So I'm going to stamp in my gift boxes and my roll of wrapping paper. This will save me A, time coloring it, and B, although I did end up fussy cutting it, so it was probably a horse piece, right? But it gives me a fun pattern to my Christmas wrapping paper, and we all know Christmas wrapping paper, tends to be tacky or gorgeous or whatever. It's not all solid usually. So I did color my images off screen to save some time today because this one did take a little bit of time to put together. So if you are interested in those colors, all of those combos are ones that I have already used. They are on my blog on my Ohuhu Marker combo page off to the right hand side if you are on a computer. So I had originally just inlaid that frame, and I thought it wasn't, I don't know, it just needed something. So I die cut it again with that wood grain cardstock, and then I came in with some vintage photo distressing and kind of added a layer of distressing on top. It kind of helps make that wood grain pop a little bit. It adds to that, I don't know, that ink blending on the front. And I liked that it was popped up because it kind of gives that wooden frame, I don't know, it gave it a little bit something. So I did cut down a couple of pieces of cardstock here because I couldn't decide which ones I wanted to go. I didn't want my images to get totally hidden in the too busy or too bright pattern paper. And so that's why I kind of checked it out. I kind of thought about doing the wood grain as the walls in Santa's workshop. And I ended up going with the lighter backside. So the backside of these tend to be the same print as the front side, just in muted tones. And so it worked out well for this one. I did use that in the muted tones. And then I did end up cutting my floor tiles down a little bit. I didn't need as much floor space, or it just didn't look right with too much floor space. So I figured out where I wanted my tree and kind of cut my floor to accommodate where my tree was going to sit. So I will glue those in my card here. I guess it's still my card front. You'll see what I mean in a little bit. And then I'm going to add some gray, just a light gray alcohol marker to add a little bit of shading to my gift box there that I glued together that pattern paper. So I'm just going to add the things to my images as I go here. I really had no rhyme or I didn't have anything in mind in my head as to what they would be holding or doing in the scene besides elfy type things. I don't know. So I decided the girl elf was going to be working on the wrapping paper. And, well, the boy, he was double checking Santa's nice list to make sure that they had everyone covered. So I'm going to have some of my images hang off the screen here, or the side of my card here. It helps to elongate the scene and make it look like there's more going on than there probably is. I'm going to do that with the gift box as well. This way I get double the fun out of one image, right? So I can add it to both sides and it kind of just goes. It also adds a little bit of an added, I don't know, gives me a little bit more dimension as well without having to cut and color extra images. It's a space filler. So I'm going to pop on all of my toys here. And then, of course, I forgot to color my drumsticks, so I'm going to color my drumsticks before I add in that little drum onto my card base. And then for the front, I'm going to finish it off with some, these are from Lawn Fawn's large wreath builder die set. And I had them on my desk for another project that I didn't end up using them for, and so I thought they would be a fun addition to the front of this window here. Kind of like greens, maybe, you know, greens that would be in a window box type of look is kind of what I was going for. I had kind of thought about doing a window box with poinsettias, but I don't have any little enough ones that would work, at least that I can think of offhand. So I add those to the base of my window here. And then I'm going to add 3 little dots for my berries. So my berries are cut from a metallic cardstock and then colored in with the same alcohol colored inks that I use to color my images. Now for the sentiment. I thought about putting a scrolly like banner over the window. I really liked that front panel as was. I liked the simplicity of it, and I didn't want to take away from that, so I ended up adding my sentiment into that main scene on the inside there. And then I needed to do my actual card base. So I kind of hemmed and hawed. I could have done a panel on the back of this one and called it good, but I brought in another card base piece. I'm going to stamp my inside sentiment there and a Happy New Year from Lawn Fawn's Waddling. Here we go, a Waddling, I think, stamp set. And then I'm going to add some liquid glue to the front of that actual cardstock base. And then I will add some score style tape onto my card front here. I know it's weird card front because it's actually like, you know, it's what we have. And what happens when I'm not paying great attention and it touches my card base before I can line it up? I ended up saving it. It was a little wrinkled on these, but it was fine. Here is where I decide I cannot stand that overly white spot there, and so I am bringing back in the stencil, lining it back up, and bringing in my blending brush just to finish that little area off. So let's go over those parameters. So the project was a cardstock and not cardstock card. So I have my cardstock with my acetate inlay sheet, and then I have the zigzag on my drum for my random. I added the collar to the little elves shirts or outfits, so they both are collared. And of course, it's Santa Workshop colors, so it should fit all 4 parameters. Make sure to go check out Mary Fun Guns Craft Roulette on YouTube here and their Facebook group. It's a good time, and hopefully it can inspire you to create something amazing too. Make sure to give this video a Vinny. Go give Mary a Vinny on their YouTube channel, and I will see you next time. Keep getting inky. Bye!